So basically, Reddit wants to IPO. They need to bring in more revenue because, to make the shareholders happy, to get a nice big high stock number, they need to be bringing in more money, and they're not doing too good right now because the whole tech industry is not doing good right now. So it's the absolute worst time for them to IPO, but they want to go ahead with it anyway. So in order to pump up that revenue number, they're going to start charging for their API. They have not done that previously. It was previously free for very high limits, for which was perfect for most developers, third-party developers who use the Reddit API. And they're charging for it, much like how Twitter started charging for it when Elon Musk came along. By doing this, they're basically killing their third-party developer ecosystem and all the apps in it. The biggest app to take a hit is this really popular third-party Reddit client called Apollo for Reddit. A lot of Redditors use it. It's even more popular, I believe, than the actual official Reddit app. Apple, at their big event this past week, they constantly showed it on screen. Like it's one of their Apple's favorite apps too. And the developer came out at the beginning of the month and said they've been sitting down having conversations with Reddit. And it turns out that the API is going to cost this solo developer, Apollo for Reddit, just a single guy building this thing. It's going to cost him $20 million a year for API access to Reddit.
Wow.
So he basically announced today that he's got to shut the app down. And Redditors are upset about this, and then upset that, hey, this is going to set a precedent where no one's going to be able to build anything cool using Reddit's data. And we have to also be specific here. When we say Reddit's data, like the stuff that these third-party developers use are the content that you and I, everyone on this watching, this is stuff we make and put on these platforms. Like the unwritten rule since the beginning of social media has been, you provide the users with a platform. The users create the content that makes your platform super popular. You can monetize that data by selling ads and stuff. That's a deal. But also, you need to also allow our data to be used by third-party developers and other people who want to do cool things with our data and build us apps that we want to use. Like, think about the earliest Twitter clients. Twitterific, Tweetbot, like those were the apps that people were using over Twitter for the longest, like the main Twitter app for the longest time. If those apps didn't exist, no one would have used Twitter in the early days. And then Elon Musk comes along and kills those clients off completely. Wouldn't even work with them. Doesn't even want them to create a Twitter app. It's like and again, this is our data. So yeah, it's that's basically why Redditors are protesting next Monday. They're shutting down some of the biggest subreddits for two days, 48 hours. I don't know what that's going to do. I would hope that it applies some pressure to Reddit, but that IPO, that's what matters to them. So, the shareholders the incoming shareholders certainly will take precedent over the users, unfortunately.
Yeah, so are we going to go dark on leftist mafia? Because I'm afraid I'll crash the whole thing. But I do want to share, support and solidarity. You'll have to do it, Matt. I will fuck. I mean,
I don't even know how. I don't know how to do it. I'll look it up. But I mean, the subreddits doing it are pretty big. Like ones that, like I think I saw someone that there's like over 3,100 subreddits that are going dark, and it's some of them are some of the biggest ones on the platform. Like the awe subreddit, mildly interesting. Like some of these subreddits have 30 million members and stuff like that. Wow. It's gonna be big.
Mm.
Well,
yeah. I don't know if you.
I mean, it matters because this might seem like, oh, well, I don't use an API. I'm not a developer, but a lot of the stuff that like you enjoy online is made by these third party developers. Like these bigger companies usually don't care about users having fun or anything like that. It's all so like these third party developers are creating like the cool like side project stuff that people actually use, and if they no longer have that API access to build on top of these really big existing platforms, because they certainly can't compete with them, so they build on top of them, and if they can't do that, then the future of the internet's going to look really boring, honestly, and it's going to be really bad that all these big tech companies basically have even more power than ever before.